New out this week.
Beasts of the Southern Wild, directed by Ben Zeitlin from the play Juicy and Delicious by Lucy Alibo. There's been an awful lot of interest in this. When it played at the Cannes Film Festival, it won several awards, including... So it won the Fipresci Prize in certain regard. Ben Zeitlin won the...
Is that good?
It is good. Actually, that is good. The Fipresci Prize is interesting. It's slight... Sometimes people... But I think it's a good prize to have won. And the Ecumenical... Yes, so extraordinary reviews around the world. The story is, it's set in a fictional bio-locale called the Bathtub, which is an area, it's on the wrong side.
A bio-locale?
Yes, a locale in the bayou, which is fictional.
Right, I thought you said bio, as in B-I-O. I thought it was some kind of biological reference.
Oh, I'm sorry, my pronunciation entirely.
Carry on.
Thank you. On the wrong side of the levee and almost below water level, in fact, below water level for this particular event, there is a young girl played by an extraordinary young actress whose name is Quvenzhane Wallis. And apparently she was 5 when she went to do the audition, but she lied her way in and said she was 6. And
because there's such a big difference.
Well, yes, apparently so. And so she is this young girl living in this place called the Bathtub, which there are stories about apocalyptic, near biblical events coming with storms, and ice caps are going to melt, and these monsters called the Aurochs are going to descend upon the levee. And meanwhile, her and her father, Wink, who's played by a guy called Dwight Henry, are eking out this existence in this area, which in some ways looks sort of strangely apocalyptic, but in other ways looks kind of otherworldly and fantastical. And one of the things that the film does is it blends the sort of what we think of as the harsh reality of the post-Katrina world with a kind of fantastical netherworld that would draw comparison with, for example, Where the Wild Things Are. As I said, in the background of all of this is this mythical story that these beasts, the Aurochs, are coming. Her mother has apparently swum away. A mother who was so beautiful that when she walked past the stove would light itself, has swum away, and the Aurochs may be on their way. Here's a clip.
This here is an Aurochs. A fierce, mean creature that walked the face of the earth back when we all lived in the caves. And they would gobble them cave babies down right in front of the cave baby parents. And the cavemans, they couldn't even do nothing about it. Y'all better think about that. 'Cause any day now, fabric of the universe is coming unraveled. Ice caps gonna melt, water's gonna rise, and everything south of the levee is going under.
Now, what you can tell from that clip is that the whole film has this kind of fable-like quality to it, shot on 16, and some people have drawn comparisons with the filmmaking of Terrence Malick, which I understand. I also think that oddly enough, in more than one moment, it did remind me of, although people think of it as a failure, of Where the Wild Things Are. What it does is it brilliantly straddles the fantasy, fact, fiction divide. So you get this extraordinarily realistic portrait of a world which you recognise and which is on the one hand grounded in a very real and contemporary political reality, which is the whole post-Katrina world, which is the way in which an entire community was essentially abandoned in the wake of Katrina, but also running all the way through that, the fact that you see it through the eyes of this very young girl, which gives it a fabulous, magical, realist tone. In casting it, they cast from the local area, and Dwight Henry, who apparently was working in a local bakery and somebody who'd lived through Katrina, and they cast him because they thought that he had the right feel for the role, and apparently he had to be convinced to do it because he said he was very busy. He had a lot of other things to be doing.
You can understand his
No,
reticence.
exactly, and he is brilliantly cast. And what the film manages to do is, if you look at it as a sort of in terms of its stark reality, you can say, well, it is about, on the one hand, environmentalism, it is about poverty, it is about the political failure to deal with communities on the fringes of society. It also deals with AIDS, it deals with a number of really sort of, realistic issues. On the other hand, the way it does it is by talking about them in a fabulous, magical, realist style, which means that it's the kind of film which ideally a young audience, when I say young, I mean, sort of 10, 12, I'll check the certificate in a moment, could completely engage with. It was one of those films that I thought was really, really impressive because it managed to tell a story that you can read in many different ways. I mean, I was talking about it on the Culture Show with a guy called Mark Booth, and we were looking at the political relevance of it and the way in which it sort of referred to other films about what happened with the levees. Like we had Spike Lee on the programme talking about his film about it. Then, of course, when Ben Zeitlin was talking about it at the London Film Festival, he was saying, as far as he was concerned, it's not specific, it's very universal. It's the whole thing is about seeing the world through a child's eyes. Quvenzhane Wallis is extraordinary in that way that really, really well cast, well chosen, and well directed child performers can be. You never think for one moment that you're not seeing the world completely through her eyes. There's one wonderful moment when she sets fire to something and she hides under a cardboard box, and it's just a brilliantly observed moment that looks like it must have come from, you know, some kind of improvisation or some sort of reality. And it's one of those films that genuinely breaks the mold. I know people have gone gaga about it, and I know that when you see the posters and you think, okay, fine, these people must be overstating its virtues, and I understand that some people have some reservations about it. But the interesting thing for me is, on the one, it's a portrait of a community. It's a multi-ethnic community. They're, you know, white, black, all together. They're all joined together by the fact that they are outside. They're on the other side of the levee, and they have extraordinary dignity, and they have extraordinary power, and extraordinary strength and personality, which really come through on the screen. On the one hand, and on the other hand, it is a mythical, fabulous tale about something that looks like the end of days, as seen through the eyes of a child. And if that sounds like an awful lot to cram into a movie, the real joy of it is that you don't feel like it's doing it whilst it's doing it. It is a magical realist fable with its feet firmly on the ground and its head way up in the air, and it's not surprising that it's been received as warmly as it has.